Hi, my name's Jana, and I'd like to let you know that down at the Feng Shui Center, and I'm the owner of the Feng Shui Center, every Thursday at noon we have a free lecture, and we have different metaphysical speakers, and for an example, today we had an hour lecture on the crop circles. It's a very interesting subject to a lot of people. So we try to get in some of the local speakers and people from out of town when they come through town. So we hope to see you there at the Feng Shui Center every Thursday at noon. And if you want more information about which lecture is coming up, you can call us down at 543-7677. Okay, I also would like to tell everybody about the Oasis Wednesday night series. And Mel and Stephanie run that at Wild Ground. And that's every Wednesday night starting at 7:30. And for more information, you can call them at 327-7977.
Wonderful guest with us tonight, Jim Cook. He's the owner of Able Tree Services. And he is a tree doctor, and we should have a good time tonight. And if I don't remember later, thank you very much, Rainbow's End, for the beautiful outfit this evening. And thank you very much for being here tonight, Jim. And so your business is in Missoula, right?
Yes.
And how long have you had your Able Tree Service?
Officially since '82.
Okay.
But I've been working since '74 in town.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And but probably since '67 I've been doing this kind of work.
Have you?
Yeah.
And what does a tree doctor do?
Actually, that's my cut on the name. We're arborists. That's the proper name.
Okay.
Prior to calling someone an arborist, they just call them tree trimmers or tree cutters or tree hackers or whatever you feel about them.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to use the term tree doctor. Just it's fun. It's easy to say, and it kind of gives a smile on people's face. Then I throw a lot of other anthropomorphisms into the whole subject matter and have fun visiting with people.
Now, my daughter's a longtime tree hugger.
Oh, is she?
Mm-hmm. Maybe she'll grow up to be a tree doctor.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, if you have any trees in your yard that have some good places for hanging swings, why I can help you attach them up high for a long swing.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I do give advice to fathers on how to make tree houses.
Yeah?
In ways that won't hurt the trees so much.
And what's the relationship that you have with trees?
Well, I feel very close to nature. All my life I've been close to nature. I was fortunate when I was young to live on a ranch in the Motherlode area of California, and I was out in nature all the time, out in the woods and the brush and the chaparral and the fields, the orchards, everything with the animals, poison oak and all that stuff. And so I just I feel very comfortable and quiet and at peace when I'm working with trees and working with nature. And it keeps my mind in perspective as to reality and what life's all about. To help counterbalance the pollution I get from a plastic environment. Okay? And I was aware of this even back in the 50s and the 60s when I was a young person, that I needed this kind of a reality check in my life to make a good life. And life has been fun. It is a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
And through your tree service, you try to enhance other people's lives too.
Sure. Oh, I make a living at it. Well, sure. But basically, it's a way to put food on the table and pay my bills. And then, of course, being self-employed, you have fixed costs that you have to pay whether you work or not. So even if I don't work, I've got big bills to pay. So that puts some stress on you. So you might as well have a business that's fun.
Yeah.
And so the stress is worth it then. But you asked me the question I don't think I answered you. You asked me, well, I work with people too. Oh, yes. And that's the other thing I like about my business. Besides being with trees and plants, I get to meet a lot of people. And I enjoy that as much as working with the trees. And so now it does turn out that because I've been hands-on all my life with plants, and I have some formal studies, but then there's a lot of self-studies and observations, hands-on experience, that I have a certain kind of a perspective on what's going on with the plant, which most people that don't have my kind of background can't possibly understand what I'm seeing.
Okay.
So it's fun to share this new way of looking at something. And especially people who have just moved to the area, who are trying to get away from the city and trying to get into a closer contact with nature. It's real important to help them let go and accept nature on nature's terms. And that's one of the hardest things we have to do, because we want to control, you know. And we bring with us our cultural values that we don't fully understand ourselves. We gathered those cultural values as infants, and our first perceptions in life as cultural values. And then we bring those without realizing that we superimpose those on nature, and then try to make nature conform to what nature should be like. Because you perceive what nature should be like, and if it doesn't fit it, you got to make it fit it. And so that's a real important thing to overcome, to really enjoy nature, is take nature on nature's terms. And step back and give nature a lead.
And this is bringing up a question for me. While we're filming this, we still have the forest fires going on, and I can even smell smoke in the building here. Do you have any vision or opinions about the forest management? Because it seems like you work more one tree at a time.
Yes, I do, but I have a forestry background.
Oh, okay.
And I think you don't, Heidi, you don't know who I am. A lot of people out in town know who I am. And so because they know who I am and I know my background, I probably should not say anything on the subject matter.
Oh, okay.
And I'll tell you why later on, which
Okay.
might be another story. I know the Indians, we have a long history of fire in the ecosystem. It's natural in the ecosystem.
Right.
The Indians periodically would burn when the fuels were light to improve their range, their wildlife habitat, their hunting. I think even to help the bitterroots be more productive. I know a lot of people are talking about how good the morel hunting is going to be. That's mushroom hunting is going to be.
That.
The area down east of Hamilton right now that has burnt, I think it was maybe 30 years ago, very severely in what they call the Sleeping Child fire. It burnt terribly hot then, and now it's burning over again. The only difference now is during the Sleeping Child fire, there weren't as many people living there.
Right.
Now there are a lot more people. So, you know, I have my views. I think we just have to get used to it.
Yeah.
Somehow, fire is the natural system. I can see all kinds of compromises and all kind of dynamics involved in coming up with a balance between no fires and all fires. You know, you could just burn the whole thing off and have a black piece of land for a while, and do that all the time, but you're losing a lot. And then you can go the other extreme and have no fires at all. So, like most items in life, there is extremes that are not acceptable, and there needs to be some kind of a dynamic equilibrium in the middle. And that's always going to be a part of a system of debate. That's what we are. We're in that middle system right now, and all this debate we have going on is very important to get different people's points of view across, and it'll be a debate that'll go on continuously. So that's just...
I didn't realize the Native Americans basically were managing the forests as well.
Yeah, they wouldn't call it managing it. It was just the thing to do.
Right.
And probably it was kind of fun, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what their motivations might have been.
Well, I don't think our culture has too much understanding of how to live with fires.
Sure. Well, the other thing, even if the Native Americans had not started them, there were lightning-started fires,
Right.
and then they could maybe take a fire that was blowing and extend it out. You know, it was a very poor fire season. Well, we can make it a little bit better by getting some burning embers and move them over here. You know,
Right.
make it spread over more area. Now you just left me with you just made an idea, and I didn't answer that exactly. What did you just say?
I was just saying, I don't think our culture really has an idea of how to live with fire. Be at peace with it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know I don't know the answers. There's a lot of things in life we don't know the answer to, and a lot of these things are often spiritual realms. Okay.
Right.
And you spend your whole life searching and contemplating, you know. And so I don't have any pat answers like how to live with fire. I think life is full of uncertainties, and that's an example of an uncertainty in life. And one has to learn how to live with uncertainties. You know. At any moment, we could stop existing. That's an uncertainty we all have to live with.
Right.
And that's hard for some people to accept. But at any moment, we could have a car accident. Every time I'm driving down Russell, especially, 'cause that's not double-divided highway yet, I could get smashed into. I could be wiped out in an instant. Probably sooner than with a fire. I think that it's hard to say. I think fires will be all the time around us, and we can either physically reduce the fire fuel quantities so the fires are not as big or hot around your house, for example, or you could just let the stuff grow and pay your fire insurance. That's what it's for, you know, and let it be a natural setting. But that again, what is a natural setting? You know, us human beings now for centuries, even before the Europeans came here, human beings have had their accent on the nature. They've already imposed their signature on nature.
But there is a way for us to live as part of nature, right? We don't have to be the conquerors or...
Yeah, no, that's right. Well, the concept would be stewardship. You know, I think we have a responsibility to care for nature, manage nature. Steward is the term I'm trying to use. Not an exploiter. And I think that's touchy. I think exploitation is just taking license to liquidate. And there are some arguments to me for liquidating to a certain level, but not absolutely. But pushing nature so that nature responds with more pressure back and making nature more productive, perhaps. You know what I mean? Because after a fire goes through the forest, the dynamics in the forest is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of regrowth, a lot of, we call it staging of successions going on. You get a wiping out of certain animal species, and then you get pioneering species coming back in, and it's very dynamic. And then you get into the older forest, and a different dynamics takes place. Not that it's not dynamic. So, you're pretty good at asking questions, aren't you?
I have a few. Do you think there's an intelligence to the earth, or a higher power has an intelligence that...
Heidi, you know, I'm... I don't know how to answer the question. I want to be polite. I don't believe that the tree has a spirit.
Okay.
To the point that I want to hug it. I hug them all the time. Well, a lot of respect. I have a lot of awesome respect for the tree, but I don't see it as a spirit.
Okay.
Nor the rocks, nor the other things. Because in my life's developments, I'm very much monotheist.
Okay.
And my position is a Christian. Okay. And that's not just a whim that I came across. That's been a lifelong time after having studied alternatives. And I lived in India for a while.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot there, and but I'm very strong in my Christian position, and but to the point that but I've learned, I hope, not to be obnoxious in the way I live my belief. So I believe that there is a spirit world, and what I've learned is that it's a big spirit world, and there's a lot of, what do you call it? I think you call them friendly spirits, or what do you call them? There are a lot of. Well, I found out I can't trust those guys.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I can't. I've learned. That's what my Indian experience learned me, because I came to understand absolute nothingness in my meditations. Okay. But after I reached that level, there was still a God in my perception.
Yeah.
And everything that I had dealt with up to that point was what I felt I could not put any trust in. Scared me.
You wanted to go right to the top.
No, well, in other words, I couldn't trust him.
Right.
And so what I did is, as a young man, Jesus became my role model. He was the role model, the person I read about everybody else. But Jesus was the person who led the life a life that I felt most that I admired the most, to see how he lived it. And so that I followed. So I started studying, and I just kept my eyes on him in order not to be distracted by a lot of the other concepts that would get me into connections with other types of spirits. So I noticed I'm very much afraid of giving my spirit over to someone else's control. And the only one I would trust to give it over to is the one that I admire the most, and that's Jesus. Okay, and so I've grown in that. But it was a good, and it's through trials and tribulations, and some of my friends know that, who might be hearing me here. But it's stronger and stronger and stronger. But at the same time, I don't want to be appearing as a basher, because other people are seeking, and I don't want to do anything that will cut off their opportunity to actually check out Jesus too, by being obnoxious.
Okay.
Okay.
That's pretty wise.
You know what I mean? At the same time, I can't explain it, but there's some kind of a feeling of that I've noticed a change in my life as I've grown, a greater capacity to feel an unexplainable caring for people, a love. Okay. Now I know where it comes from. It's not from me. See, it's my relationship with Christ. But and that love compels me to be gentle, and not to take my subconscious guilt feelings, project them into somebody else, and tell them they're going to hell.
Right.
That's not necessary, because people know they're estranged from their origin, and they're looking for it. Anyway.
Well, let me tell you how I got to that question. Thank you for being so forthcoming.
Thank you.
That's all very personal.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's right. And I don't, because I don't even know how I got here today. I was just waiting for the bus, and here I am. Go ahead. You were going to say something. Why you got to the question?
Well, the way I got to that question was around your idea of stewardship. Some people say, well, a volcano, Mount St. Helens, does more ecological damage than 15 big-time factories, and so there's no reason to control the factories if we can't, And
I can understand the argument, and I have to say that I really can't make a statement.
Okay.
I haven't pondered that in my mind that much to be a pontiff on the subject matter. I can understand both arguments, and I see it again, a part of the dynamics of communication. Human beings are individuals, isolated, kind of like isolated individuals. You have your ego, and you're isolated. You know who you are, and you're in this body. And a very important thing is for us to be able to communicate with other people, and that communication can be in various forms. And then when you get large numbers of people here communicating with large numbers of people here with different groups, that form becomes much more interesting and dynamic, and pretty soon you get debate, dialogue.
Right.
Okay? And each side kind of exaggerating their position. So I can see where the industrialists say, well, that mountain, that volcano did more damage than all of our factories did in 10 years,
Right.
So why don't we make it against the law and have a volcano eruption, tax that.
Or not regulate the factories.
Or forget about the factories, yeah. So that's going to continue on. And I don't think there is an answer.
Okay.
It's a dynamic thing. The answer is, there is a knowable answer, but I'm not smart enough to know it. And I hope, in a sense, that is a position of some kind of wisdom. that I know I don't know anything. I mean, I don't know the answer. So I hear the argument, I take it in, I just let it sit there.
Okay.
And then if there's going to be any kind of reason why I should say something about it, maybe I'll get an inspiration about it and say something about it.
Okay.
But I don't know.
And-
I am concerned about all of this, and burning of fossil fuels and all. And I came out of the LA area when I was very, very small too. I have spent, and I saw the smog situation there. It's like, in LA, it's like what we see in the valley now with all the smoke,
Right.
but it's like that all the time
Every
in LA,
day.
every day. And you get a sore throat from the acids in the air. Bad. And that's one reason why I decided to leave too and come here to Montana. Montana was the last best place I could find to go to at that age. This is 50 years ago. You know. So, yeah, I so happy to find Missoula and Montana. What a happy time I had flying over these hills and jumping out on the fires up in the wilderness areas.
So I should let people know you were a smoke jumper your first
Oh, did
trip
we
here.
say that already?
No.
Okay.
Before we were on
Well, that's
here.
how I got here. I
Yeah.
found it. I just got a job with smoke jumping.
Yeah.
I got it. So are we talking loud enough for them to hear us?
I think so.
No one's knocked on the window yet. So that's how I discovered the area. What a great time that was to
Yeah.
be living in. There weren't any clear cuts in the country here at that time.
Really?
Really, you fly over it and you don't see any open areas. It's all dark forest land or natural meadows.
Yeah.
So I love Missoula, and I love the people in Missoula. And I think Missoula has a lot to offer in terms of being on the leading edge of good life, good living, you know, and handling problems. I can see we're being pressured a lot, and it's dynamic. We're changing with a lot of. Well, I guess we're becoming a shopping center, aren't we? You know,
It seems like the
economic center.
infrastructure is really
Yeah.
rapidly expanding.
Yes, and that's shocking to me too,
Yeah.
because you know, for me when I first came here, Broadway going west, when you got to Russell Street, that was the end of town.
Ah.
Everything else did not. Everything else was field.
Huh.
Yeah. And then also the Rose Garden, going down Brooks, you're out of town.
Oh, okay.
There wasn't any strip down there. So, anyway, here I am, and I came in here the other day looking for someone who might have any interest in doing some video coverage of some gardening,
Yeah.
and I ran into Frank.
Right.
Okay.
He's one of the producers.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so Frank's very dynamic and enthusiastic and a lot of energy, and I was very tired, been very tired, working all the time. And so somehow he got the idea that I was an organic gardener and that I was trying to do some gardening on my own, and I had some kind of a mission in gardening, which is great. But in fact, when I was very young, after I'd been in Missoula and everything, and I graduated from college, I joined the Peace Corps, and I went
Okay.
to Ecuador, South America, where I lived, where I really loved the people down there, and I fell in love with them. Well, after 35 years, I was able to go back last winter. But rather than just going as a tourist, I didn't want to do that. I found out that there was an organization in Idaho that has a contract for communicating with people in Ecuador. It's called Partners of the Americas. And they get some small funding through USAID to send technical people down to their sister country or town in South America. And so I've got a little, probably I wouldn't show up on it, I got a little coverage here. It shows all the different states and universities of the United States have these contracts with different countries in South America. It's pretty cool. Kentucky, for example, has a contract with the northern part of Ecuador. But Idaho has a contract with the southern part of Ecuador.
Okay.
So I joined the Partners of America out of Idaho. So when I went down there, I was able to travel some with their group and meet their counterparts, Partners of the Americas down there. And so I was kind of seeing how Ecuador had developed over the last 35 years, and Ecuadorians are very envious of the United States. They are very, they model their way of thinking after us. They get all of our movies and all of our news and all of our ideas, and they try to imitate them. So they've done a good job. They have lots of factories polluting the air. They've got electricity all over the country. They have a fantastic electrical grid. They got roads all over the country in very bad steep slopes. And they're exploiting their forest, the rainforest, more than I could have imagined. I'm not a real fanatic on you can't cut the forest, but I saw a lot of forest removed that was not removed when I was there 35 years ago. Made me a little sad. But and then just like us, they have a national debt that's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible for them to ever dream how they're going to. So in order to get around that, they just devalue their money. So since I was there last time, their money has devalued, been cut in half over and over and over again. It's been cut in half not only once or twice, it's been cut in half 1,250 times.
Wow.
In other words, what I used to be able to buy with their money 35 years ago, now it takes 25,000 times more items. See, a worker used to earn 20 sukris in a day, and now they have to earn 50,000 sukris in a day to be equivalent.
Right.
And well, yeah, of course, but in a sense, so they have earned. Whereas the 20 sukris they earned in a day 35 years ago equated to $1. And there was the average wage down there was $1. They've improved to the point that now their average wage is $2.
Okay.
But with an inflated sukri too. So that's why it's 50,000 or something like this. It's hard to.
And a lot more to consume and energy consumption,
Yeah,
electricity.
A lot of, yeah. So a lot of urbanization going on. That's typical around the world. Urbanization. People are. They're getting contact with the developed world through production, movies, video, television, and that's giving them a hunger. Life could be better than sweating it out in the country. So they have a passion to go to the city. So we have urbanization.
Right.
And that was going on in Ecuador 35 years ago, and it just has continued. I think the city of Guayaquil, in the coastal city Guayaquil, has probably expanded easily over sixfold since I was there. I think it's even more than that now.
Population and the size of the city?
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, the population has really expanded, and then of course it had to just go out into what was wild territory around the edge of town at the time 35 years ago. Well, people had farming techniques. They knew a lot about nature, but coming to this city, they've lost that, and the children have lost it. And then the second generation kids don't know anything about it, and there's an interest now in the educated class and the middle class and people who are, thinkers down there. They say, we lost a lot, we're losing a lot, and our diet is very poor, and we need to. And they probably have picked up some ideas from the States again on that. We need to make our diets better. We need to learn how to be more stable and not dependent upon the transportation systems in the country, so we can be more independent. And we need to do our own gardening more. So what happens is that the different organizations around there have come to the Partners of the Americas, which is a team of people in Ecuador. They're Ecuadorians. They have this little interest group, or I don't know what you'd call it, nonprofit group. And they get these requests from these other interest groups, and at least half of the requests are asking for help on organic gardening. Well, so there's a program within this Partners of the Americas called Farmer to Farmer.
Okay.
And the idea would be you get a farmer from up in Idaho who grows potatoes, ship him down to Ecuador. They grow potatoes in Ecuador. Gosh. Then bring an Ecuadorian up to here. That would be kind of fun. We both grow potatoes, and we could maybe learn something from each other. And maybe we could export some Ecuadorian potatoes up here and see how they grow. And maybe see how some of ours grow down there. Just open up dialogue and communication, farmer to farmer, without any more intervention up above. Just let these guys communicate. So that was the way the program has been designed to go. And so with these requests for the gardening, and my being down there, and they knew my background in forestry and in trees and agriculture, so to speak. I'm not a farmer, it's that much, but I'm a soil man.
Right.
I got dirt under my fingernails here. Whether it's corn soil or tree soil, it's soil, okay? So they kept asking me, well, what can we do we would like to make our farmer-to-farmer program much more effective, you know, what can we do? And I said, well, we could just keep sending farmers down there, like you could send someone like me down there too, but it's really such a, I mean, what burdened me so much was, gosh, it's hard going down. You're going down to a climate that's very uncomfortable, and if you're not used to the diet, and if you haven't experienced in traveling, you'll wind up, within 2 weeks, you're going to wind up with some kind of dysentery problem.
Right.
And so then your effectiveness is cut in half or worse. And then when you recover from that, you're pretty weak. And in other words, you could send people down there a lot, and the transfer of information would be pretty slow.
Right.
Pretty, not very good. But it'd be fun. I mean, it'd be fun for the guys going down. It's a trip, huh? So somebody gets something out of it, and that's their trip. But as far as the Ecuadorians getting any real education out of it, not there. So my thought was, I thought, gosh, Missoula, we got all kind of gardeners around here, you know, and I see the Hmongs out in their fields with their families, little children, farming, gardening, and I see the mud project up here on the north side of town, and I see a lot of other people gardening. I said, you know, it'd be kind of a neat thing just to take my home video camera and go out and just watch these guys with very low level of technique. I'm not a Hollywood person. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a cameraman. I'm not a, I am who I am, and what you see is what you get, okay? So this would be a simple thing to do. You could take an hour's worth of coverage and show how they cultivate, how they pull weeds, how they make their compost, and how they turn their compost, or whatever it is they do, and then chat with them and see what they do. And then there would be a terrific amount of learning, because in Ecuador, everybody, because of the electricity is all over the place there.
Right.
You could, everybody has television too. It's easy to have television use. You could reproduce these videos many-fold, and you ship them out to the different communities where there are local employees of the government who have responsibility to care for the folks, you know, like teach them this and that, teachers even.
Yeah.
And there are teachers who are very enthusiastic about the kids learning skills, you know, good cultural things about Ecuador, you know, how to farm their kind of products, you know. With the idea too that if the children learn something at school, they could go home and teach it to dad on farming, see. But anyway, there would be a terrific expansion of the information into the hands of the people who need it, just by duplicating the video. And it wouldn't have to be Hollywood production, you see. In fact, better that it's not. I think there's a subliminal, or there's a second message there too, and that is, here are some real Americans. Most of the Ecuadorians, and I guess this would be true of other Latin countries too, most of the Ecuadorians that I had, I met some of the Ecuadorians that I knew 35 years ago. Some of them had gone to the States. And I met a lot of others who had gone to the States. Oh, where did you go? It's Miami, New York, and Chicago. That's all they know about the United States.
Right.
All heavy urban sites. And they don't see the real people. I don't call them what I call real people. But here would be a chance. On the video, you're going to see some real people, you know, down-to-earth folks, which is kind of like they are. They're down-to-earth. They like to be down-to-earth, but they think you have to be floating around in some kind of high-cultured level of living, you know, 2 cars in every garage, you know, or lots of money, and that's the ideal of life. A lot of people are unhappy because they're not achieving what they think they have to achieve to be happy. And here they get to see that you've already got everything you need to be happy. You know, start being happy now. You know, you got family, and you got your health, you got good food, you know, and you got children and
community.
Community, which is your source of happiness. You know, and so I think there'd be. So what I'm coming up with the idea is, what I'd like to do is videotape farmers in the Missoula area.
Sounds like you might do well to have a Spanish narrator.
We could do that. Someone's beating on the window?
Okay. Means we have a few minutes left.
Okay. Did we talk that long already?
We already talked that long.
But
we'll take a break and we'll come back.
But I haven't really said anything yet.
You've said quite a bit.
Okay.
Very valuable stuff.
But just to kind of summarize then, what I would like to get to is if I can't find someone interested enough to help me do a better quality of videotaping, I'll wind up doing it myself.
Yeah.
It'll be super homey then, and maybe that's more homey than we want. I like the idea of the secondary message. Besides the techniques of the gardening, the other message is togetherness, family, community, pride in your community, caring for each other, helping each other. We see a lot of that in Missoula,
Yeah.
you know. So I'd like to kind of show some of that. For example, I'd love to include a little 20-second or 30-second shot of the carousel.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe-
Handmade carousel.
Yeah, with a handmade carousel with the music playing, that you can hear the music.
Right.
And maybe see an old man riding a pony with his granddaughter.
Maybe you.
Maybe me, yeah. And with a child next to him. That should bring a smile on anyone's face, regardless of their cultural background.
Right.
You know?
This definitely sounds doable.
I think it's doable.
Do you want to put a request out to the community if anyone wants to help you with this project?
Sure, I really would love
Including
that.
maybe a Spanish narrator.
Sure. Yeah, and
How can people get a hold of you?
well, I'm in the phone book for one
Do
thing.
you want to give out your phone number?
Well, you know, I'm getting a lot of calls right now. Maybe have them call MCAT, huh? Or call. I know. I don't know.
I don't know if MCAT
I don't want
wants
that
to
either. Gosh.
They'll take an occasional call.
Sure, sure.
but-
Well, you know, I'm
You're
working
limited.
now with the Refugee Assistance Program,
Okay.
so I can get contacts with the Mongs. They probably don't want to have a lot of extra calls either, although it's kind
But
of.
you're listed under Jim Cook in the phone
I'm
book.
listed under actually Able Tree Services, where I'm listed.
Able Tree Service.
So
Okay.
people know me as Able, Mr. Able.
And I've called there, so you have a voicemail. So
Yeah, I have a voicemail. So I have an office manager who will take the messages. Sure, if anyone's interested in
Sounds like a
stimulating-
great project.
And you see, what would be fun, because I know on the North Side Garden there's a couple of elderly Russian refugees,
Ah.
old men, don't speak any English, and they're gardeners.
Uh-huh.
And the supervisor of the North Side Garden told me that she says she's learned more from these guys, and she can't even understand what they're saying. But I'm watching them.
Yeah.
She's learned. I said, that would be fun. I mean, I would like the idea of having some of the Russian dialect come across on the video, and then having some of the Hmong dialect come across, and then some English come across, and then we were some points we'd like to make sure they understand. We do it in
Right.
Spanish,
Yeah,
just hodgepodge it all together,
that sounds great.
without it being, you know, a formal Hollywood type presentation. Home videos. Okay.
Well, I think Frank's looking forward to helping you a little bit
Yeah.
with this.
Now they're coming from an angle of trying to get people in Missoula to start out with the community gardens like we had during the war. Victory gardens.
Victory
I can remember
gardens.
those when I was a kid. I can remember the war. I can remember everybody had chickens in their backyard and gardens, and that was. I was very small then. I mean, I was just toddling, but I can remember that. But Frank would like to. The idea of people getting closer to that. I think it is very good myself. I personally am not able to garden right now because my life is too busy with the
Yeah.
business, and and it's kind of like if I'm working with people's plants all day, the last thing I want to do when I come home is hug a plant at home. Besides, I have a lot of business to take care of or calls to respond to. So my joy is the people that I deal with. Okay, too. So I don't need to have my own garden at home right now. I'll have to. Right now is a good time to be in the business. I harvest my fees from the apricot trees or the plum trees.
Oh, cool.
Right now I'm
Yeah.
able to do that, but I'll just have to rely on people around me to feed me if I can't grow my own garden. But Frank's got this idea that people could have their little community gardens, and they could trade groceries amongst each other.
Right.
And I told him kind of a funny story, by the way,
Okay.
and I'll have to tell it to you. The common joke around here is zucchinis, because the way it goes, zucchinis are simple to grow. Anybody can grow zucchinis.
Right.
And they're easy and they're
Yeah.
fun. And so about September, every time you go into your office, you'll find a zucchini on your desk from your office mate who brings their zucchinis in and hands them out to their friends. But then all their friends who got the zucchini have their own zucchinis that they're handing out to others, so you get this terrific trade in zucchinis, and people are sick of them, It's all too much of the same thing. So it would be good to have more variety. And then one guy who knows how to grow zucchinis can trade them for someone else with carrots, you know.
Give them all to somebody who knows how to make recipes with
Yeah.
zucchinis.
And then when you have a big harvest at the end of the season and you're going to have freezing conditions, you can't carry it on anymore. How to preserve it in a nice, neat way.
And when we get back from the break, I want to talk more to you about your ideas about community, and also go through you brought some fun props and things.
Right.
So we'll
I
get
have
back
some
to
feeding.
that.
And for me, it is hands-on information from
we're
working
gonna-
with it so many years. And I've done a lot of reading.
So this should be fun, and we're
Yeah,
going to do that right after the break.
Okay.
And we're talking to Jim Cook this afternoon, and please stay with us. We'll be taking a short
Yeah.
break and be back. Thank you.
This is a good film. You want to film something?
I guess, you know, I make sure she doesn't run up, try to run up and get mommy.
Thanks for staying with us. We're here with Jim Cook, a tree doctor and arborist here locally in Missoula. And you brought us some goodies I wanted to know if we could play with.
Yes.
Okay.
I brought a present for you, you know.
Oh, thank you.
It's a kind of like, I'm sorry I didn't have time to gift wrap it, but this is very fresh. I just chipped it up about an hour ago. Well,
Okay.
just an hour before I got together. And we've been talking about half an hour already. So this is a byproduct of my tree doctoring, okay? When we do all of our trimming and whatnot, we put it through a chipping machine, and then we come up with this product which smells
It smells really nice.
smells good. It's so fresh. And this is what when we talk about organic gardening, I think there's a lot of different things to talk about in organic, but this is a subject that's basic to everything, whether you're growing trees, tomatoes, or golf course turf or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, this won't be good for turf, but because this would be in the way of your grass. But I think I would prefer looking at this than looking at grass.
Yeah.
I really would. Especially if on my own property, because I don't have to mow this,
Right.
you know. I've got some places around town where this has been put on top of the ground in backyards.
Okay.
No lawn to mow. You put it in 6 inches thick around the fruit trees. No weeds to deal with. And you go out there during this drought right now, and the area hasn't been watered very much, but you go out there and pull this aside, and the ground is just perfect humidity, moisture content. Not too wet, not too dry, just the right amount, just like field capacity, which is what the roots love to have so they can drink their water without them drowning in water. So I thought I'd bring this by. This happens to be poplar.
I was going to ask, okay.
Yeah, we cut down 9 poplar trees yesterday, and this is a byproduct from our work. And we delivered 14 cubic yards of this to a client up on Black Pine Trail up on the South Hills. And he is probably with his son spreading this thing out today on his front yard.
Okay.
And he's happy because now he doesn't have to mow his front lawn anymore.
Now 6 inches of this. And kids could play on this.
Oh, this is soft, yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
And very moist.
this is very fresh.
And now the top will get drier.
It
but
will
underneath
dry out.
will
It'll look
moist.
like regular bark that you buy at the
Yeah.
nursery, you know, or the wood chip. You see this, at this time of the year, it's the best medium to put on your ground because you got the green leaves.
I
See
should
the-
let people know we're filming this in the middle of August. So
Yeah.
how long is it good for? I mean, what times of the year is this good to
Oh,
put out?
any time of the year.
Okay.
Okay. Any time of the year is good. Maybe now is better than other times. But the difference in value is insignificant to worry about the timing. I mean,
Right,
okay. Even in the winter, this is good, medium, because you have a lot of live material here. You got cells that are still, these probably haven't died yet. They
Right.
don't know they're trimmed off yet and they've been chipped up. You got cells here still trying to function with all kind of molecules that are important for life functions.
Okay.
And different kind of things, amino acids and enzymes, elements, plus maybe some insects in here. This tree were being cut down because they were Lombardy poplars, very fast growing. They were starting to get some borers in them. So the owners wanted to get them cut down before the trees got any more degraded.
And what are boreholes?
Yeah, it's a beetle that lays its eggs into the bark, and then the grub that hatches from the egg is a worm. And it lives about 3 years in the tree before it comes out as another beetle.
Eating out the middle
It
of the
eats
tree.
out, right, it makes holes as big as your finger here.
And that sounds like good fire fuel. that
Oh,
hollow
it
tree.
would, right. But also then I'm sure there's a few of the grub carcasses in here too, see?
Okay.
All of this stuff is organic.
Right.
And you just put this on top of the ground and just in fact, what I wanted to show here is how some people say, well, it takes 3 to 4 years for this to decompose. So we'll just mix it into the soil. We don't want to wait.
Okay.
Don't mix it into the soil. That's bad.
Why is that bad?
Well, the process of decomposition of the cellulose, which requires a bacteria to do, the bacteria that does the decomposing needs to have nitrogen in its body makeup.
Okay.
So it'll grab the nitrogen in the soil that's normally used by the plant, and then that nitrogen is not available to the plant anymore.
Oh, I see.
While
Okay.
the decomposition takes place. Now, after
Right.
the cellulose is decomposed, those microbes, bacteria, don't have anything cellulose to chew on, so they die off. And then they release their nitrogen, and the roots of the tree can get at it. But there's a period of time when you'll have yellow foliage because of
Oh, okay.
mixing this raw stuff into the soil. So leave it on top. So that means when that means when the stuff leaves this area, goes into the soil, there's no need for the microbes in the soil to tie up the nitrogen. The decomposition takes place above where the roots are.
Now I need to ask,
Yeah.
before you start with this, about, real diehard organic gardeners. Do you know if this tree was sprayed with stuff?
Yeah, in this case, I know that it was not.
It was
Yeah,
not?
it was absolutely too big to spray for anything.
Okay.
You couldn't spray it. And I am the caregiver to the client, and we have never sprayed the tree ourselves.
Okay, so this is definitely
Yeah,
organic.
and in fact, this client has a garden right next to these trees, a veggie garden that we're talking about
Yeah.
producing here, and they're really into it. And the trees were beginning to get tall enough to shade their garden too much. That's one reason they were removed too.
Oh, okay.
To let more sunlight in there. So I feel comfortable with these. A lot of the current pesticides for insects are contact type pesticides. They got to get on the body of the insect to kill them, and they have been designed to break down their toxicity very quickly. So if any of those pesticides have been used on here, I would not feel bad. I would not. There are others that might be long lasting. It's the herbicides that have the long effect. The 2,4-D, is that right?
I'm not sure.
Or not WD-40, okay, 2,4-D. 2,4-D is a bad one because it does have a long lasting effect in the soil
Yeah.
as a herbicide.
Okay.
But that's different than an insecticide, I mean, in terms of purpose for using it. So this is good stuff to put on top of the soil, and then the thing is you get immediate benefits to the soil.
What are those?
Well, first of all, you don't have to wait for the cellulose to be decomposed over a 3-year period. Within the first few days after getting moisture on top of this thing, you're going to get a tea formed from all of this good juice in here. And that's what I wanted to show with this idea.
Okay.
You're going to get a tea that's going to put chemicals, organic chemicals, right into the soil very quickly, and that's going to have a rather fast improvement on the conditions of the soil. You're going to have a lot of happy organisms in the soil getting that tea.
Okay.
So let's kind of show, and I'm just, and I have not done this. I'm just kind of playing this. I'm winging this, you know. Look at this texture here is. Now I know some people who love to make different kind of teas. Maybe this ought to be a. I bet that one, how this would taste. We could drink it, but this is neat.
Poplar tea.
It's really.
We
It's
have
got.
some herbalists we're in contact with. I'll bet they'll know the
Yeah.
benefits
So if we have
of
any
poplar.
herbalists that have any interest in exploring some new teas, here's
Yeah.
an opportunity. This has got really fine stuff in there that'll decompose quickly, and it's got some coarse stuff. What I find when I put this on the soil, let's say I put it 6 inches deep, it'll shrink down 50% of its depth in each year.
Oh,
So
okay.
after a year, it'll be, instead of 6 inches deep, it'll be 3 inches deep. And a second year, it'll be 1.5 inches deep. And then after another year, about 1 inch deep, you know. And then pretty soon you need to put some more compost and put some more
We
down
have
on
to
it.
see how much water we have. This is probably enough for the
Well,
amount of
that
water
looks-
we have.
Yeah,
Do you
go
think?
ahead.
So we're just going to pour this carafe of water in there?
I have no idea what's going to happen. We just pour it in there, and
Okay.
but this is the process. What I would like to do, in fact, if anyone, school teachers out there, would like to do this with me, we go
Hopefully
get
we
some of
have
this
enough
heavy
water
montmorillonite clay, like out at the airport, which is tough to work. It's tough to garden in that kind of clay.
Right.
And we're probably not going to see anything here, but
But we'll pour it back out before we
yeah.
end the show.
Yeah.
We'll show.
Sure smells good.
It really does. Yeah. You're talking about the clay.
Yes. What I'd like to show on the video, if we had any video opportunities in the future, I'd like to show what this does to the soil underneath it.
Okay.
Because I've got some areas where the clay is brick now. if it's not watered. It's
Okay.
brick. But then if you water it, it becomes sticky, gummy, goopy stuff. You can't get it off your shovel when you try to plow or dig or cultivate. You can't get it off your shoes. You start growing in height an inch or two while you walk on the wet stuff. So you let it dry out, then it becomes hard. It's not friable like a loam. You get this juice starting to mix into that clay. Mix just the juice itself. You'll start getting an improvement.
Oh,
Okay, even before you get the cellulose decomposition and going into the soil. Plus, that in addition to the fact that the compost, the wood chips on top help control the moisture content of that soil. So just the other day, I went to an area that had not been watered. It was covered with wood chips, but all it had was the natural rain from the spring. I scraped that stuff off there, and it was friable, so I could stick my shovel down into that soil. I went over to another area in the same property that didn't, it was just bare clay, and I had to chisel the shovel. I mean, I couldn't get the shovel to go in.
yeah.
So that is, to me, one of the most practical, simple things you can do to make healthy plants. And I would like to see it, in talking now, one of the reasons to be here was to talk about gardening, but
Right.
since I'm in the tree business, I really like to encourage people to, when they plant a tree, is to keep the grass away from it, put the mulch around it, a radius of 3 feet, maybe.
Okay.
That's a 6-foot diameter. That's cool. Less grass to mow. Let's get rid of the grass and give the trees a chance. Because half the trees that don't make it after they're planted don't make it because the grass is competing with them.
Okay.
In several ways. One of the ways they don't make it is because the homeowner is wanting to make the grass look nice and pretty on his regal pasture around his castle, that he takes a weed whacker out. And there have probably been, I always like to say, the weed whackers, there's probably been, let's say, weed whackers have probably been a $2 billion industry since they started, okay?
Right.
But they probably have done $10 billion worth of damage to trees.
Oh.
In other words, they've done more damage than they're worth.
They lacerate the roots?
No, they lacerate the stem of the tree.
Oh, okay.
And I get pretty adamant. I get adamant because I see it all the time, and people just aren't aware of it. And even the most knowledgeable people, the most sensitive people, and who've studied a lot of things, they just also don't appreciate it. How easy, they just take that old dangerous weed whacker, that nylon, and they get it right up close to that tree. I'll just control it, but the slip of the hand, and it's on there. You lose 3 to 4 years growth on the tree.
Wow.
Yeah, if you don't lose the tree altogether.
Right.
And you have a permanent scar on that tree. It'll never go away for the rest of the life of the tree. So get rid of the weed whacker. And get rid of the grass, which calls for the weed whacker. Kill the grass, dig it out, and then put these wood chips on.
Now, if you put these 6 inches of the mulch on the, what do you call it? The wood clippings?
Yeah, wood clipping, wood chips.
Wood chips. If you put 6 inches of this, how long after that would you need to put more in?
I'd say maybe 3 years later you might want to add some more.
3 years.
It's kind of neat. Depends if you have cats out there or kids out there. Or that's good for the cats. They have something to scratch up when they go to the bathroom. But if you have dogs and puppies and children, they like to play on it. If you have a backyard that's small and the dogs are tearing up all the lawn all the time anyway, and you've got muddy paths, get rid of the lawn altogether. Get 20 cubic yards of these wood chips, spread it out over the whole backyard. You'll have a happy dog.
As far as I understand, it's only been the last 100 years that lawns have really been popular. Before that, we didn't really have too many lawns in the country.
Well, I can't say personally because I wasn't around 100
But
years ago, but
if people are really attached to their lawns and want to keep some nice soft grass around, how far out of a radius away from the trunk of the tree should they put the chips?
I would, but they like, this is assuming they like the lawn or they like the trees.
They're going to keep the lawn,
Sure.
but they
Well,
don't want to weed whack their trees.
Well, I would say a minimum of 18 inches, okay?
18 inches from
Yeah.
the tree, okay.
So that gives you a 3-foot diameter.
Okay.
I'd prefer to double that,
Okay.
you know. And for the benefit of the tree, in the long run, you'll have a much healthier tree if you make that a larger area.
Because the roots go very far
Because the
out.
roots, people think the roots go down. And they think they go down as deep as the top goes up, and it's fallacy. 95% of your root mass is within 18 inches of the surface of the ground.
Okay.
And probably as much as 85% of it is within the first 12 inches of the ground.
Wow, okay.
So it just tapers out. A great majority of the roots are within 9 inches of the surface, and some are right on the surface. So, and they grow horizontally. And so
Anyone who's been to Florida or anywhere where they've got tornadoes or big winds has probably seen the trees that have tipped over,
yeah,
and
you
the
can see
whole
the root mass.
structure.
Yeah, you've seen the root mass, haven't you?
Mhm,
See,
yeah.
sure. Are we getting any color here? Way down there we're getting some color. We'll probably,
Yeah.
I'll have to strain this with my fingers when we pour that off. I think this is a good starting place for trees. But now we get into organic gardening also. I could see, for example, putting this out on a plot of land and letting it sit there for a year and a half or 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then don't even plowing the ground, just going in there and pulling aside the wood chips down to the soil, dig out a place to put your tomato plant.
Okay.
See?
So this is good for an entire garden.
You could use especially where you don't have row crops.
Okay.
And now when you're going to plant a row of radishes, it's a little difficult to.
They wouldn't get sun and all that.
You have to remove the wood chips back to the ground.
Okay.
Right at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But then if your rows are close together and you have 3 inches of wood chips, the wood chips may fall back onto your
I see.
row. Okay, that's not so good there. But for plants like melons and tomatoes,
Okay.
cucumbers, I think would be good. Non-row croppy stuff,
Mm-hmm.
they work really good.
And you won't get any weeds.
You'll get fewer. You'll get if you start out really thick, you won't get as many weeds. But the weeds you may get, usually they're rooted into the compost and not the soil.
So they're easy to pull.
They're easy to pull. They're wimpy. They're really wimpy. What I like was when you take a big pile of this and store it in your backyard, it'll go through a cooking process. You'll see
Right.
steam come off the pile,
Huh.
and it's and that helps kill the grass seeds that are inside the compost.
And is that going to be creating methane or not?
I don't know. Does methane smell good or not?
Not too good.
Not too good. Excuse me. Are you using a polite form?
Well, methane is what you'll get with,
Beans.
cow manure.
Oh, cow manure, yeah.
Fertilizer. Yeah.
Well, if you're a cowboy, that's a sweet smell.
Right.
Okay. And so I can't judge
Okay.
if it's methane or not. It could be some methane off of there.
Well, I've thought that there's an awful lot of methane going into the air that could be harnessed. and
Harnessed,
used.
right. I did see a neat thing in Ecuador, by the way, at one of the gardening places there. They had, from their pigs, they put the manure in a trough, and they had a cover over that, some kind of a cloth, and they were collecting methane from that manure.
Ah.
And they were piping it into their little cabin, and they used it on like a Coleman stove,
Wow.
and they were
Yeah,
able
see?
to burn, cook their meals for the day from that. It's pretty unique.
Yeah.
Pretty cute. That's off on another tangent. But anyway.
It'd be nice to go down to Ecuador and do a film down there too, so we could do an even exchange.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, I ran across some pretty progressive people down there. In the town I used to live in, there is a young fellow from Holland who has a lot of experience in agriculture, and he worked as a foreign aid person in Africa for about 10 years for his government. And then he left that and he came to Ecuador, and he's trying to make a living growing orchids to export back to Europe. But he's doing pure organic gardening all the way, and so I would like to tie in with him with any kind of increased dialogue that we get with Ecuador and us. Because there are some neat things to learn from them down there on their organic techniques. Let's see. Yeah, there are some. I'd like this thing with the methane. I never saw that happen here. In
That's very clever.
In fact, we may be so advanced now we could not figure out how to go back to the baling wire mentality to fix things. And so we might learn from them how to do that, how to do a simple thing like that.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it'd be neat for children to learn about as educational things, how nature works. This would be fun stuff to do in school classes. In fact, if there are any teachers, high school teachers and natural science teachers who would like to do some experiments, hands-on experiments with the students, it would help me a lot to do some testing. I would like to take a couple of plots of ground, heavy clay ground, and put some compost on top of one of them and not on the other, and then have some way of more accurately comparing the soil over time between those two plots.
Oh, yeah.
And if there's a student, just 1 year class, then you could probably see some real fast changes with this kind of addition to the soil. Now, the other thing, if there are any teachers out there who like to teach nature and wildlife stuff, I've got about a dozen logs that are hollow inside, and they were previous homes. They were previous apartment homes for squirrels and birds. Okay?
Multi-level.
Multi-level, right. Vertical duplexes here. So if any teachers would like to have those in a class for their students to dissect and look inside and see if they can find some bones and carcasses and fur and feathers, you know, it's there.
Okay, and then to find that, they just need to look up Able Tree
Yeah.
Service in the phone book.
Yeah, I've been storing these, and I just haven't I've been too busy to get these out. They won't cost anything. I just give them to the people. Anyone who wants it, it's free. Get it. I think it's real important that our kids, besides learning how to read in a book and study and learn things in a book, they need a lot of hands-on stuff, and they need hands-on other than on plastic.
Right.
Because I believe most of our children have grown in a plastic environment, and they really need to get close to nature. And this would be a little opportunity to get their hands on a animal's home, you know, and then they can think about themselves, you know.
Well, this is more than cerebral learning. I mean, it's like riding a bike. You can't do it by reading about it.
That's right. That's right.
It's a whole body knowledge and body
That's how
understanding.
my experience. That's what I've experienced in my life, working with this stuff all the time, hand in hand. It's all of a sudden the perception is different. You know, I see things that I never would have seen otherwise because I get a chance to look at all the different kind of situations.
Right.
You know, and do you think we have any color off of there yet? Oh,
I
it's
think
looking.
we do. I thought we might wait till 30 minutes
Okay.
because if people put this on, you know,
Well, it's going to. Yeah.
we'll know what will happen within 30 minutes of putting it on.
Sure. Now, yeah, I've had people give me testimonies that how quickly it has improved their soil. And I'm talking about areas out at Loma Linda, isn't that right?
Okay.
Loma Linda, no, or out there at the beyond the Sunset Cemetery. Was
Okay.
was
I'm
that,
not familiar with that area.
Well, I can't remember. Mullen Road. You go
Oh,
past
okay.
the cemetery, and then there's a development out there called Elmar.
Oh, okay. I know that
Elmar.
one. Elmar Estates, I think it's called.
Yeah, Loma. It's okay. I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the area at the bottom of Miller Creek. Okay.
Yeah, no, this has more nice trailer, mobile home
Yeah,
type homes.
sure. That's heavy clay out there,
Okay.
and so I've had people out there put this on the soil, on their flower beds and other areas, and they just rant and rave how all of a sudden their soil looks like soil
Yeah.
instead of brick or mud. It really looks like soil. It's loamy stuff.
That's really interesting.
Now the beautiful thing with this approach, this would work on taking a heavy clay soil and making it more loamy. You could also add this to a sandy soil, silty soil, and it would then tend to make that silty soil move in a direction of a loam too. Loam also. So you take the two extreme conditions in soil textures, fine particle, clay, heavy particle, sand, and moving them to a middle ground, which is a loam, a mixture of different particle sizes and organic matter. The organic matter is the big contribution, see?
Yeah.
It's real important. So,
And Frank said one of the things that you have a mutual interest in, there's actually some interest in the community of starting a community sort of like Findhorn, which is in
Yeah.
Scotland, where it's fairly self-sufficient, organic gardening,
Yeah.
working with nature.
yeah. I hadn't heard of this before until I met Frank.
Yeah.
And that's his angle. That's where he's coming. That's where his passion is, you see, and that's why we were able to link.
Right.
Because he saw what I was trying to do, and he kind of thought I might be heading in that direction with myself. I'm a gardener, but I'm too busy to garden for myself. I just
Right.
provide advice to other people with the trees. But yeah, we had the Friendship Farms, were they called, or the what did they call those?
We were talking about victory gardens
Victory
before.
gardens, that's right,
Yeah,
victory
during
gardens.
the war, and a lot of people sustained themselves on those.
Yes, and I think I think it has a lot of value for people like in a family. Rather than coming home and watching television and ignoring the children because you're watching television, I think it'd be awesome to go out there and just relax. You have a stressful day at the job, the boss has been jerky, and you're mad and all that. Just lay back and have the kids around you and do work in the garden, get your hands dirty, and get close to the soil, and then be with your children.
Yeah.
Let them get involved. Let them feel like they're really making a contribution. Let them plant some seeds and let them have their plants growing. I think that this gardening, what do you call it, victory gardening, the victory has a lot of meaning. Victory not only over a world war, but a victory in your own family and in your own life.
And in Montana, there are a lot of large farms where people are already doing this, but it's unusual to try to do it in the city. I mean, it's a small city, but it's still a city.
Yeah, we do have the HUD project, I mean
The
the
mud.
MUD project, excuse me, the MUD project,
Right.
and the urban demonstration project, and that is moving in that direction. But it's maybe more that should be publicized a little bit more. Maybe, I don't know. But we have a core group of people who have a longing to get close to the soils, and it's available, and they have, there's good networking here. I would say for people who aren't close to the soils, I mean, they have a real high stress level of living, and they're making the buck is fairly important, and they're so busy doing it. I don't know if those kind of people watch kind of a program that we're putting on. So they probably
They might hear about it.
hear about it. But I would really encourage them to, if they're having stressful problems in their life, just to lay back. And if you're trying to save money, it's a good way to save money. You're not blowing money.
Right.
You're really you're trading seeds from your neighbors, perhaps. Trading equipment with your neighbors, and then when you get the fruit out or products out, you can trade with your neighbors. If they've had a better success with their particular plant than you've had with your species of that plant, well, you might trade that family.
And there seems to just be a unique joy connected with gardening and being part of the creative process.
Yeah.
My daughter, 2 3/4 now, just grew sunflowers this summer and tells everybody about them.
Oh, yeah.
And those were nice because they're very quick starters.
Yeah.
She got to see some results within
Yeah.
a few days.
Sunflowers would be ideal for children.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then I have a friend who she's 35 and just grew her first zucchini and just went crazy and showed it to all of her friends. And she just as joyous all over her face.
Sure. Yeah, and you can sure make a lot of zucchini bread with it, And if you can't figure out what else to do, zucchini bread's great.
Yeah.
I think it's very soothing and soul satisfying to get close to living materials. Now, as I said earlier, I don't see that living material as having a soul of its own.
Right.
But I see it as living altogether, living with the same processes our physical bodies have.
Right.
So that living plant is basically like our physical body. It's just that we have something in addition to the physical body, and that is a conscience
Yeah.
of our existence.
Yeah, and it's easy for us. I mean, we don't shed our leaves and stuff like that, so it's easy for us to disconnect from the seasons, but
Yeah.
our bodies are still of the earth.
Yeah,
Our
that's right.
souls
Yep.
are.
Yeah, and you'll see,
otherwise-
you'll have to excuse me, I may be getting too far on the wrong side here, but I like to joke. And so anyway, I think that's an example of why it's ridiculous to think that evolution is going to higher and higher improved levels of humanity. We actually are degrading. We're getting less and less and less. Because if evolution was creating things to be more efficient and better, we would have been created with chlorophyll in our skins.
Oh, yeah.
And we could just go to the beach and lay down. Wouldn't that have been a great life? Just lay around and not have any stress to worry about. But you see, that would then not give us the opportunity to have the learning experiences of dealing with problems.
Yeah.
Now, if we didn't have
Right.
problems to deal with, it'd be pretty boring. I mean, laying out on the beach after the first day or two, you just die from boredom, I think. I do.
We have
Maybe
this-
I'm different, but what was the other little thought there was that life is like a swimming pool. And the water in the swimming pool are the problems you have in life. And you wouldn't have any fun in the swimming pool without the water. Can you imagine? A swimming pool without water. You know, a life without challenge to overcome becomes a blessing that you ought to be thankful for it. Really, I got another problem to solve, you know? And instead of looking at the problems as being in the way, let's drown ourselves in alcohol to get rid of our problems. You know, I can't stand the problems, and just run away from them. And then with drugs or whatever reason you run away from your problems. Don't identify them. Shoot. Oops, somebody's knocking at the door again. Should we give
We
them a
have
ride?
about 5 minutes left.
Give them a ride.
Is he hitching?
Yeah, hitchhiking a ride here. Well, we have 5 minutes. I need to wash my hands. Maybe I could just wash them out over here. Okay? Let's see what happens here. Make sure you don't make a mess out of here.
Oh, we definitely have some tea here.
Yeah, we're not going to get as much water out because it's soaked into the tissue a
Right.
lot. That's pretty strong.
That is very strong.
Well, can you imagine now?
That looks like strongly teeped black tea with if it had hot water after about 5 minutes.
Yeah. I just wonder if anyone would be brave enough to want to
Yeah,
drink some
that's
of
probably
that.
good to show.
We have some herbalists out there, herbal
So here we
tea
go.
drinkers. Maybe they could tell us if this would be
Here, I'll put it up
safe
against
to
my
drink.
white shirt so you can see. This is some
That was white.
strong
Yeah, tea. Just
tea here.
well, can you imagine now
It
that?
smells delicious.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, we don't have to put any sugar in that tea.
The tea, yeah, it's actually, there is a sweetness to it.
Okay.
Might be the type of tree.
That would be the tea that the life organisms in the soil would shout hooray for if they were given this stuff.
And now let's, in case anyone came in later, let's say where this came from. What is this?
These are wood chips that come from a tree that we cut down. We process all of our wood chips by our wood. All the brush is chipped up.
Put a
And
label on the other side so people see.
it is available
And so you
for composting,
are the owner of Able Tree Service,
Yes.
and
Yep.
this is the chips from a few trees,
but from 9 cottonwood trees we cut down yesterday.
cottonwood or poplar? Or
Poplar.
Okay.
Well, it says the same thing.
It is,
The
okay.
same genus. But anyway, I'm trying to show that besides putting the compost on the soil and taking 3 years for it to decompose, you get immediate benefits from this, which leaches out of the live tissue, out of the live cells. You're getting live molecules and not molecules, but you're getting life-supporting molecules here
Right.
to go into the soil that would be a tonic for the soil and for all the little animals in the soil.
Yeah, any plant, I mean tomato plant, anything in your garden would love
But
this.
yeah, this is a tonic for the plant.
Right.
But the neat thing is, you see, but you make the soil organisms functioning in a happy way. You have a happy soil,
Yeah.
a happy environment in the soil. The plants are going to benefit from it, you see. The plants will actually be so tough, macho plants that the insects are not going to be so damaging to them, and the diseases aren't going to be damaging to them as much either. I think it's a very simple way to get back to nature.
And it's a really good example of the stewardship you were talking
Oh, yeah.
about.
Well, what would you do with this other way? You take it out to, you can either take it to
Landfill.
BFI, a landfill,
Yeah.
or burn it
Right,
and pollute the air.
yeah.
I could talk more and more and more forever, I guess, on this thing. I mean, I've been doing this for all my life. I could talk probably a week straight on different ideas.
Right.
Like in the tropical forest, when they cut the forest down, if they don't let that recycle right away with new forest coming up, they will lose the organic matter in the soil, and the tropical forest soils very quickly lose their fertility.
Right, it's not a very deep topsoil there.
That's right.
And a lot of it's being used, from what I understand, for cattle grazing.
Yeah, yeah. They
Which
convert it to
depletes
grass.
And
They-
then it gets dry and the topsoil blows off,
Yep.
and so they have to go deeper into the forest to do it again
Yes.
and again.
An old system that the natives used was a rotation Tongia system. I studied this years ago, where they'd go maybe over a 15-year cycle. They'd come back to a spot, cut the timber down, grow their crops for a year and a half, and then move on.
Right.
But you get so much rain in the tropics, it washes the minerals out. So the trees have actually captured all that stuff, and they store it up in the tree.
Right.
And then when you cut the tree down, that immediately gets into the soil again, and then it'll wash away if it doesn't get captured back into the tree again. That's different than what we have here now. We don't have that dynamic type of process in our
Right,
soils.
and
here.
that's another point. Stewardship is different on every part of the planet.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of some similarities in process, like putting the down there. They need organic matter on their soil all the
Right.
time. But we need it here too,
Yeah.
even though it's a different. It's different. There's some similarity.
And so if anyone has
Yeah.
questions for you, are you open to taking calls at your service?
I'm really busy. I would like to take calls if anyone would like to help us do some videotaping of
Okay.
the organic gardening around here of the Mongs
Okay,
and the other family. Maybe some people have gardens of their own they'd like to show off.
okay.
Put it all together on a video to ship to people in South America to exchange ideas with them. Then we can maybe get a video of them, bring it back up here.
And anyone who might be willing to be a Spanish narrator
Yep. Would be
would help
fun.
out. And anyone who might want to work with cameras, they could all call you at
Sure.
Able Tree Service.
Sure.
And you're Jim Cook.
I'm Jim Cook, right. And then if they want to call me on other things like this gardening, I'm not that much into organic. I'm not much into veggie gardening. There are other people who know a lot more about that than I do, but I'd be happy to support any, like a couple of blocks would like to form a little community garden of their own in somebody's vacant back lot.
Yeah.
Or any. Sure. If they would want some wood chips, give me a call. That'll
Okay.
be help. I help get that garden going. Otherwise, I am real busy getting calls to look at trees.
And when does your season sort of end? Do you take a rest through the winter?
Depending how bad the winter is. You know,
Okay.
4 or 5 winters ago, we had snow up to the steering wheel, just about. You know, so I left.
Oh, okay.
Open winters, I might have 6 weeks off in the winter. Our work, we're a little bit slow right now in August, but in September we're going to get busy again until it gets bitter, bitter cold. 20 below zero, no, 20 degrees or above is fairly easy working weather for us. Below that, and if there's a wind, it's tough to work, depending on the kind of work you're doing. Now, and then last winter I was gone for 2 months in Ecuador, so.
Okay.
But we do work during that time. My son was working while I was gone. He was keeping the business going, so. And we're busy now. A lot of calls. So if you want to call, if you have a sick tree, give me a call. If you have a sick tree, give it 2 aspirins and call me in the morning, okay?
Okay. Thanks so much for being here, Jim, and really wonderful luck with all of your
Well,
projects. And I
good.
hope people respond.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
So Jim Cook with Able Tree Service, and this will be showing again on Thursday, I believe at 2:30, but you want to check your TV guide. So,
Well, thanks, Heidi. I'm
thank you
glad
very
to
much.
meet you and your daughter. She's a sweetie.
thank you.
And maybe this will go on to something else.
And if anyone wants to reach MCAT for any video projects, it's 542-6228. For anyone in the Heidi Show, the number is 406-829-9162. And I hope everyone has a wonderful week and you all enjoyed the show. Thank you.
Yeah.